Okay, maybe have a little bit of time to do a live stream here. See how it goes. So, been talking about mostly just past events, human historical um, events in the past. Still working on a timeline thing. I was talking to Grok and trying to refine that because they use dark matter and dark energy and as to make their math work. And then Grok is saying, no, well, I can't use dilated or differentiated measures of time and distance to make it work. Doesn't seem right. But anyways, I'll get back to that maybe someday. But right now we have proof positive, absolute evidence of the genetic markers of everybody's lineage. A lot of people don't want to take a DNA test because they feel like it's might expose them to some vulnerability or something health wise, whatever, or informational wise. But it is very, very, very interesting, very significant, where you can trace the maternal lineage all the way back to its origin through the exact lineage of your mother's 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 mother, all the way back. Same thing with the Y chromosome. You can trace your father's lineage back to your father's 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 father, all the way back to its origin, which to me is an amazing thing, especially considering the Table of Nations. Now, once you talk about the Table of Nations, some people get all uptight and say, "Oh, that's the Bible." The Bible is the backbone of ancient human history. The Bible is the best source of information possible as far as ancient human history. But anyways, let's go take a look at see what some of the stuff what Grok had been saying. First, going to go to the breakup of the continents. Now, believe it or not, there's a lot of evidence for the breakup of the continents after the global flood. In other words, for one thing, you can't have a breakup until after the sediment layers are deposited. This is something I don't know why the majority of Christians and young earth creation should be jumping on this because, I mean, it's so obvious that you can't have a breakup of the continents until you first deposit the sediment layers. And then you can have a breakup of the continents. And it explains all the animals getting to where they were going without surfing monkeys and surfing dinosaurs. Anyways, let's make this bigger so you can see it better. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, so I just made sure that all the points are in here in this discussion. So 100 years after the global flood in the days of Peleg, that's an excellent point. That was the point I made here about the mountain ranges and the Grand Canyon and the subduction, displacement of sediments washed out in the Grand Canyon. But the pushing of the mountain ranges and highlands, orogeny, aligns with catastrophic plate tectonics, CPT, where rapid collisions and subductions during continental separation cause massive uplifts. Now, this is due to the pressure from the tectonic plates as they're splitting apart. as the plates were splitting apart and separating the continents, there was pressure placed on all the continents in the east of the United States would be the Appalachian Mountains. The eastern Brazil would be the Brazilian highlands. Of course, in the west, you have the Rockies in North America and the Andes in South America. This is from all the pressure of the continents pushing against the continents from both directions. And of course, you have India and the pressure pushing against Asia, which massively uplifted the Himalayas. And of course, you have the Alps too. Italy, pushing against the Alps with the same effect. So, with all this pressure, I mean, this is all evidence of what happened after the sediment layers were deposited, because the glacial striations are on top of the sediments that were deposited, on top of the bedrock, which is the result of the global flood. So I don't know how you can even consider a breakup during the global flood when the sediments had to be deposited first, and you have these great mega sequence of sediment layers that pass from one continent to the other because they were connected after the global flood. The same thing with the plants and the fossils and the sediment layers. Even dinosaur tracks line up between continents. And you know they didn't walk through the ocean and get to the other side. And we know that they broke apart. It's just a matter of when they broke apart. And they can't break apart until all the sediment layers are deposited. So I don't know what the problem is. It's so obvious. So let's go through some of this evidence here. Okay. Immediate post-flood setup. Dispersion and Babel attempt. Okay. The animals migrated right away. Soon after the global flood, they got off the ark, the animals spread out all over the world. That's how they got to South America. That's how they got to Australia. That's how they got everywhere they are found, is because they just spread out right away. Humans didn't spread out. So they are not found spreading out immediately because they were too busy building the Tower of Babel. But anyways, you have animal migration. As Noah's family and animals exit the ark on Mount Ararat, Mesopotamia, God commands, be fruitful and multiply. Animals scatter globally across a still unified supercontinent, Pangea-like, but post-flood softened crust, which it was softened, but it began hardening. After 100 years, it was hardening and starting to crack. Protospecies, one kind big cat, one kind of weasel, like a mustelid. They head in all directions, begin rapid diversification through isolation, environmental adaptation. So the variation of the animals happened right away because they isolated into their different categories, the different family groups, and they went into different environments, which caused all the variation of all the animals. Okay, an example is the jaguar and leopard ancestor split. One to the future Americas, one to Africa. Greater Grayson honey badger, lesser Grayson lines separate. Jungle, mountain, African variants. Aardvarks and anteaters, they're not really related. I don't know why he's saying that. But anyways, Africa, but they are separated. So Africa versus South America bug. Oh, these are the anteaters. Okay, shrunk relatives or skunk relatives stay in the New World only. Now, this is the thing. In the New World, you have skunks in the New World. You don't have them in the Old World, apparently. It's news to me. I thought they were in the Old World, too. But anyways, things like prehensile-tailed monkeys are only found in the New World because you can make a lot of ground through the trees in order to make it as far as the New World. And of course, the jaguar is actually stronger than the leopard, so it made it to the New World. Noah's descendants, Shem, Ham, Japheth, line, Huddle and Shinar, Babel plain, population booms, 8 people to thousands, but they rebel against God's dispersal command, focusing on unity and self-glorification or identification or whatever. They start building the Tower of Babel, a ziggurat-like structure to reach heaven, possibly as a post-flood ark. In other words, they didn't want to get flooded out again. Tech advances quickly. I mean, that's what they say. I don't know if that was the reason or not. They just wanted to make a big name for themselves. Tech advances quickly. Brick kilns, tar, mortar, but it's unfurnished. Humanity's hubris on display. Okay, and then we have the trigger. Now this is a big piece of evidence right here. We have an asteroid strike around 100 years after the division begins. The impact event, a 30-kilometer wide asteroid linked to the Burkle crater dated 5,000 years ago. Marine sediments slam into the Indian Ocean right at the weak crustal seam between Madagascar, India, Australia, and Antarctica. Then, I don't know what I was saying here, not a direct hit on land, but a glancing blow. It's probably is still there. Whatever hit the Earth is probably still there in the Indian Ocean between Antarctica and India. But a glancing exploits post-flood vulnerabilities like softened man. By that time, it was hardened. It wasn't softened. It was hardened or began to harden because concrete has 2 guarantees. If you know anything about poured concrete, it's guaranteed against theft and it's guaranteed to crack. And that's exactly what, of course, the Earth is doing. Africa is cracking today, they're saying, From floodwaters and pressures. Massive shock waves rip a 20-kilometer wide scar, magma erupts in fountains, tsunamis 500 feet high radiate globally, slamming northern coast. Centrifugal force from the Earth's spin amplifies the chaos, flinging land masses outward, which is northward. So as soon as the continents broke and there was all this subduction going on and all this movement inside of the Earth going on, the continents moved northward. And as they moved north, of course, they separated from each other. Of course, with the plates pushing them apart. So wherever the continent was cracked, there was pushing, they were being pushed apart, especially in the Atlantic ridge. You can see the clear evidence of the coast of the East Coast was connected to North Africa. The southern part of Brazil, the Brazil or the South America was connected just underneath the, or Africa, on the southern part of Africa. Broke apart from the southern part of Africa. Plus, you can see how the tip of South America was connected to Antarctica, and which later you can see where the ocean broke through the connection that South America had with Antarctica. The biblical tie-in. This coincides with the earth was divided in the days of Peleg, Genesis 10:25. Peleg in Hebrew means divided or channel furrow, like waters carving land apart. Later Aramaic interprets it as where the waters flow, fitting the oceanic trench formed, or the ocean between the continents. Okay, because we know from Genesis that the word originally means divided, but then later meaning had to do with where the waters flow, meaning after the continents broke apart, the place where waters were between the continents that broke apart. Catastrophic geological upheaval, rapid continental separation, supercontinent fractures, the impact cracks, and unifying landmass like drop plates, still warm and mobile from flood aftershocks, slide apart 200 years, not millions of years. So the estimation here is it was a movement of 200 years that the continents took to get where they were going. So South Africa with the glacial striations suggesting it was once over top of the South Pole. So if you look at the glacial striations in South Africa, you can see that they're going like in every direction. They're going north, west, east, and south. The glacial striations, the movement of the glaciers are going every direction from South Africa as if it was over top of the South Pole. So South Africa gets yanked north, Antarctica drops into current position. In other words, Antarctica moved south over top of the South Pole to its current position as the new southern ice cap. India hurtles north, crashing into Asia, forming Himalayas. Australia lurches east. Actually, yeah, it did go east because of the crater, the asteroid that hit and separated them. But it also separated from Asia at that time because from everything I can tell is that it was basically one continent. And so Australia separated from Asia at that time. America's peel west. But remember, they're not just going west. They're going north. As they're going north, they're separating from each other. Africa, Eurasia pull apart. Well, that's where the asteroid hit, was between Africa and Eurasia, basically. Evidence: mashing glacial striations across southern continents at the 35-degree latitude indicate massive ice sheet breakup or ice sheet pre-breakup, mid-ocean ridges and magnetic stripes show fast spreading. Okay, this thing, I don't know what it's trying to say with this 35-degree latitude, because India is north of the equator. India moved so much to move from being connected to Antarctica to being shoved north of the equator. India moved more than anything else. So I don't know what this 35-degree latitude is supposed to be saying. Anyways, I guess maybe that's supposed to be before it broke up. I don't know what it's trying to say. But anyways, pushing up mountain ranges and highlands, rapid plate collisions and compressions, remember the compressions, from the impact forth cause widespread orogeny, mountain building, orogeny, mountain building around the world. For example, India's northward slam into Asia buckles the crust. It's just basically India was connected to Asia. This is what I believe. India was connected to Asia. It just buckled from being shoved, just like the Rockies were formed and the Appalachians were formed because of all the pressure from all sides, basically. All the pressure from all sides made the mountains rise, and it's what happened in the Himalayas and the Andes, from the Nazca Plate subduction under South America, the Rockies, Alps, crumpling, the highlands like Tibetan Plateau lift, isostatic rebound, crust bouncing after the sediment removal, the mantle heating, runaway subduction. Mainstream views, these are millions of years, whatever. So buckling under the Mariana Trench. So as all this pressure is building up, the Marianas Trench just buckled under. With the pressure from the ocean, plus the pressure of all this movement of the plates pushing against each other, the Marianas Trench just buckled under. So that the deepest part, 36,000 feet, is as deep as commercial airplanes fly high. So if you want to know how deep the ocean is, sometime look at the commercial aircraft flying at 36,000 feet. That's how deep the ocean is in the Marianas Trench. In a matter of months to years rather than eons. The buckling under refers to the Pacific plate bending sharply like a conveyor belt, diving into the mantle, generating intense heat, earthquakes, volcanoes, arcs, and the Marianas Island. Okay, and to this day, they call it the Ring of Fire over there. Okay, role in continental movements. This rapid subduction acts like a pull mechanism, accelerating the separation of the Americas from Eurasia, Africa, widening the Pacific. I don't know if it widened the Pacific. I don't think it widened the Pacific because it was one landmass on one side, which is another point to make, is that when the glaciers started to build on the South Pole, which was South Africa, that made the earth extremely unstable, and it was wobbling. And as it wobbled, it was cracking. And then with the asteroid hit, they just all separated, just all broke apart. Okay, while compressing the western edges, okay, yeah, being compressed, east and west being compressed, maybe it was, I don't know about, north, it might have gotten larger north and south or something. Well, about the same. Well, a little bit because Antarctica moved south over the South Pole, so I guess you could say it got wider north to south. Okay, it explains young seafloor sediments, ferruginous materials in the Pacific bays, supporting recent formation. Of course, everywhere you look on the ocean floor, you can see the formation of the new floor. Okay, uplift, washout, sediment displacement in the Grand Canyon. Colorado Plateau. Future Grand Canyon region uplifts dramatically up to 2 miles due to subduction-related mantle or the pressure-related mantle upwelling and isostatic rebound from the flood sediment removal. This sets the stage for massive washout, receding impact tsunamis, or post-flood runoff. It's probably more of the post-flood runoff carved the Grand Canyon in weeks or months via channelization erosion, not slow river cutting, of course. Stripping billions of cubic yards of soft water, saturated layers, washed out sediments displaced downstream in the Pacific Ocean where rapid subduction in the Mariana Trench or nearby, well, the Mariana Trench is not nearby, engulfs them into the mantle, explaining the lack of massive delta deposit. You would think there's a massive delta from the Grand Canyon. There's no sediments there. It was either subducted or some people say it was moved north to California, which I'd have to see evidence of that, but there's no deposits right where the Grand Canyon is or the Colorado River, but for sure there was some subduction there. Mainstream because I mean, how can you can't possibly have that much sediment displacement without it being there unless it was subducted. Mainstream model C, slow uplift. Okay, we know what the mainstream says. Okay. Polar shift and sea level surge. Earth's wobble tilt. Of course, remember the wobble and the tilt. From the impact caused the Arctic to flood. But there was already, with the global flood, I mean, there was already the tilt, axis tilt. Because there was seasons. There was seasons after the global flood where the, time to plant and harvest and things like that, which is essential for life. I mean, very, very essential or useful for life is the seasons. I mean, before the global flood, it was like a what do you call it, terrarium, a big greenhouse. It was like a big greenhouse. But then after the global flood, now we have to have seasons so they can water and stuff like that. Okay, centrifugal force shoves, or centrifugal shove drives north continents upward, displacing water northward. Sea levels, yeah, right, here we go with the Arctic Circle, yeah. So as the continents move north, they, of course, displaced water, so the sea levels rose catastrophically in the Arctic Circle. This is the main point here. This is the reason for the flash tsunamis burying megafauna mid-migration. 150 plus mammoths in one location in Alaska. And they got Berezovka mammoth in Siberia with undigested buttercups, saltwater intrusion, and marine diatoms in frozen lungs confirm sudden drowning and freezing. So, I mean, the evidence is there, and we always wondered, ever since I was a kid, we always wondered how the mammoths got quick frozen, like flash frozen, like that, with tropical vegetation in their mouths. How did that happen when they're in the Arctic? Well, they weren't in the Arctic. They were shoved up into the Arctic. It's as clear as day. And it has to be that. It cannot be any other way. You can't say, well, it's not moving today like that, so it didn't move like that in the past. Well, obviously it did move like that in the past. And it was a catastrophic event. It just going to get to it here in a minute, maybe. That it cut the lifespan in half a second time after the global flood. Okay, species isolation and hyperdiversification. Separated groups adapt fast to new environments, no slow Darwin and Crow microevolution, accelerated by stress and isolation. Animals, lions, tigers, zebras, tundra, savanna, otters split regionally, crocs, pythons, tapirs, possum, mirror across new continents. In other words, you have all the same animals or not, you have these same animals across the continents. But of course, they are in different environments and they have slightly different appearances because of it. Okay, you have the American crocodiles and the Nile crocs. 8 to 10 megafauna kinds, quickly frozen, buried, woolly mammoths, steppe bison, horses, cave lions, saber-toothed tigers, rhinos, etc. In Siberia, Alaska, tens of thousands of individuals, upright and unrotted, still basically fresh meat because they were quick frozen, because how they were quick frozen and for thousands of years remained that way. I mean, the evidence is there. It's just a matter of putting it together. Human language confusion and scattering. As the ground shakes and tower crumbles, God confused the language at Babel. Not by magic, but perhaps impact-induced panic, trauma, causing rapid dialect splits. In other words, people isolated into family groups. If you have like a catastrophic or a traumatic event occur, the first people you're going to go to is your family. So people isolated into family groups. Noah's 16 grandsons, lines, Asher, Syrians, Arpachshad, Semites, Kohanim, scatter, Cushites, south, Egyptians, west, Elamites, east, Medes, Thracians, north, all emerging simultaneously 4,000, 5,000 years ago, are not in the timeline of age-old Earth. Calendars history align. All ancient civilizations, Sumer, Egypt, etc., start 5,000 years ago. All calendars, Mayan calendars, Hindu calendar, Chinese calendar, Egyptian calendar, all 5,000 years old. Post-division, no pre-Peleg records. Well, pre-flood records. There's no pre-flood records. I mean, except for the Bible. The Bible goes back 6,000 years. The Bible has historical records and genealogies going back 6,000 years. All known calendars are only 5,000 years, which does coincide with Noah's birth, by the way. So that could be the reason for the 5,000 years, which is not always, it's not exactly 5,000 years. They're not all synchronized exactly 5,000, but they're all basically 5,000 years old. Okay, lifespan having second cut, radiation, ozone damage from impact. This is what I was talking about, the lifespan having the second time. From whatever reason, radiate. This is another thing. With an impact like that, could be the reason for the number of mutations in every lineage. You can tell who everybody is by their mutations. You know, if the Earth was hit by an asteroid, you're going to have problems with ozone damage and radiation from the impact. Crustal chaos shortens lives. Again, from 500 to under 500 years to under 250 years. First halving post-Eden flood. This one's the Peleg's penalty. Telomeres fray, hearts weaken, Abraham hits 175, feeling the decline. So, aftermath, a rebooted world. 100, 200, 300 years. Okay, the rise of civilizations. Scattered groups settle. Sumer Egypt emerged with ziggurat tech, Babel survivors, all traced to Noah's sons. Explaining shared flood myths. Gilgamesh and Manus. That's all over the world. Everybody has a flood legend. Geological scars, Indian Ocean Trench, Burkle Crater, flash frozen bogs, Chevron Dunes, Storega Lake in Scotland as tsunami remnants, plus Mariana's Trench is a permanent buckle scar from the rapid Pacific subduction, uplifted mountains, highlands, Grand Canyons, eroded chasms, subducted sediments. No need for uniformitarianism, and it's clear after considering all this evidence that it was not from or was not the result of uniformitarianism movement. This is all catastrophic movement. All of this is showing catastrophic movement. Catastrophism fits the data when calibrated to biblical history, biblical dates, biblical genealogies. Theological punch. God's sovereignty and chaos, division enforces dispersal, humbles humanity, sets stage for Abraham's call, year 292. No aliens, slow eons, no aliens or slow eons, just one rock, one crack, well, many cracks, one divided world. That's Grok's way of saying things, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, that's one thing right there that we can consider. Guess we don't have too many people here right now, so we can maybe move on again. We'll go back and let's see what else we can find. So this was the breakup of the continent, evidence of the breakup of the continents. Now, what we need is to look at the evidence of the there, let me put this back over like this. If I could find it, the evidence of the genetic thing. This is the speed of light. This is me arguing about the speed of light. Biblical genetics. See if this is the one. Okay, so let's see. We got Uzbekistan. This is the one where I'm still trying to convince Grok of the global flood, and I guess okay, so this is the other one, greeting causality, limitations of blood cell. No, this is a conversator. Otters, everyone, North America, okay. Well, I might have lost the original one. Animating Y haplogroup alleles. This will work maybe. This is what I need. Okay, so this will work. Yeah, this will be fine. So let's put this back like this. Make it legible. Okay, the setup. If we can find my cursor. The setup provides the cleanest separation between aram and lud while maintaining IJK rooted models. Okay. So I switched this because I think the M213 is the one where it was F1 through 3. And so this P14 would be lud because they're two different lineages. They're two separate lineages from each other. The reason the Arameans are not plentiful, you might say, or there's not very many Arameans left, is because the Assyrians basically wiped them out. I was having a text discussion with an Assyrian, and he was bragging about how they eliminated the Arameans. Okay, so we got Lud. Probably the same thing happened to the Lydians as well, because they're in the same area, in the crossroads of the world. It's a dangerous place to be, with all the different conquests going back and forth. So that's what happened. Now, this is what's very interesting here, because and I don't think we're going to be able to see them all, but this is just what it is with the alleles. This is what's going on with the alleles when you root the tree in the IJK. Okay. So, for example, in Arpachshad, you have the markers, L15, the M89, the M9, the P14, M213, etc., 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 M168. So these are the alleles. Okay, and so these are the alleles: guanine and arginine, cytosine, and the other one I forget what it is. Guanine, adenine, guanine, and cytosine, and the other one T. I forget what the other T one is. Anyway, so in Arpachshad, this is all the ones it has. And so this is all the different ones. You can see when you go across these, you can see how it identifies each person. But the problem is that I can't see any more going this way. Well, I guess I can. At least I couldn't. I wasn't able to copy it. I guess it was a problem. Okay, all the way to Mitzrayim. Okay. So these alleles are going to identify what they have, what they don't have. Okay. So Arpachshad has the original alleles, so he's going to be the same all the way across. So the A, all the way across. Wait a minute, wrong way. So this is Arpachshad. So this is all the Semitic people. This is all the Eurasian people are going to have this L15A. So we go across here, and K, all of K has it. Javan, T-Raz, Magog. I don't know why it did this. Anyway, whatever. So this is going to identify each person, but as soon as you get to Kush, it changes to guanine instead of adenine. So this separates or identifies the Hamitic lineage here. That not only in this one, but the other one too. The next one, they also change. So you can see here a clear change in the Hamitic population by way of the alleles. A clear difference. Of course, the Out of Africa claims this to be the original alleles, but they're not. But you can see the difference here, the change happens. Now this one here, T, this is shared by everyone except for Aram. Oh, so this identifies Aram. Okay, right. So this allele only changes in Aram. So this is the identifying allele for Aram. Or in the case, if I switch it around right, it would have been Lud. Now this one here, M213, this is going to identify Lud, but in reality is Aram. Aram, okay, Lud, G, Lud, oops. Lud doesn't have, okay. Might be a mistake. G, all the way across, G, yeah. Pretty sure that's a mistake because it's G all the way across, and this is supposed to be different. This 213 is supposed to be different, but I think it's Aram. So we got the M168, for example. It's T all the way across. If I can wake this thing up. T all the way across until you come to Kush. And then for Nimrod, it goes back to T. Now this can be explained one of two ways. We've already verified that Nimrod is Hamitic, besides it being C. But here's a slight difference. Now this could be because the environment that that Nimrod was in compared to the Kushites, but not only the Kushites, but also all the other Hamitic lineages. So Nimrod is the only one that either switches back to T or retains the T. I guess it's more likely that it would switch back to T, but that's not even. But I'm thinking it's retaining the T. But anyways, the descendants of Nimrod retain the T. But what I always said, if Nimrod's the oldest son of Cush, it's possible for him to retain the T of his uncles Shem and Japheth, while there's a change in Cush, Put, Canaan, and Mitzrayim. And of course, Sin is the son of Canaan, so he's going to have the alleles of Canaan. But this is what confused me for the longest time, was that how in the world does A have the original allele. It was only assigned to A, the A lineage. So it was assumed that A was the original with no SNPs, no change. Because you don't know which way it's changing. You don't know if it's changing one way. It depends where you put the root of the tree. And when you put the root of the tree in the IJK, then IJ becomes the original set of alleles. So the IJ has the original set of alleles from Noah. That'd be Arpachshad, which hardly ever anybody's talked about Arpachshad, but he's like a key person in our lineages. But anyways, he has all these are all original to Arpachshad. These are the way they were, and any change from this is an S&P. So, for example, if I can see one here, okay, we got one here. This P14 changes in Aram. There's a change from the original allele. So in here, it doesn't change, but I think that's a mistake. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a marker. M60 is, I think, Hamitic. So it's going to change with a Hamitic group. Right there, G of Kush. Okay. Yeah. And Nimrod has A. That's another one. Not only does he retain the T, he retains the A. So I'm thinking more that he retains these. I mean, if this is correct, thinking more he retains these alleles than, and the other ones lost it. The other lineages lost it. But anyways, it's still as much as ironclad as you can get in spite of everything. So all these are alleles, original alleles here in Arpachshad, and they change down the line. So let's see, Dan's allele, where does Dan's allele change? It changes in the I1M253 right here. See, it changes from A adenine to guanine. This is Dan because it's M253. This is me. So I have this allele change right here that it identifies me as belonging to this change right here. And everybody else has A. Everybody else has A. All the way through the Kushites. Everybody else has A. Only Dan changes, which identifies me. Now this identifies yeah, there we go. This identifies, if it's correct, it identifies the Semitic lineages. Let's see, where's the Semitic? Oh, Asher, Aram, Luz. Wait a minute. So this 4, this all has to be double checked, of course, but this is 523. This 523 changes in, now this is something here. So this would be a change in Shem right here with Elam. Oh, which is right. Yeah. So Arpachshad being the oldest, mean all these are descendants of Arpachshad right here. Judah, Levi, Asher, Dan. These are descendants from Arpachshad. But as soon as you change to Elam, is a change of allele in Shem when Elam is born. Okay. So, so we have 523. It's a change in Shem. And everybody else. So, 438. Not sure which one this identifies. It identifies Asher. 438 identifies Asher. So actually there's 523 here. This identifies actually Arpachshad, because Arpachshad's the only one that has it. So the 523 is Arpachshad and his descendants. And he's the only one that has it. So that identifies him. And everyone else has A. So this is an allele change in the descendants of Arpachshad, which includes myself. And the 253, only this one changes to identify me specifically. This one changes to identify Asher specifically. It's really kind of complicated, but it's very interesting, really. This one identifies J1. So that change identifies J1. Of course, M172 identifies J2. That's pretty good. So the M172 is Judaic, could be the descendants of David and Solomon, M172, but it's Judaic. And who's it identify? It identifies Judah. So J2 is identified by M172. By the way, M170, I don't know if it's here, identifies me as well. No, I don't think it's here. There's M172 identifies Judah, but the M170 identifies me. Or actually, it identifies I. Is it here, M170? I don't think it's here, but I think M170 identifies all of I, which is Dan and Asher. So Dan and Asher would have an allele change in the M170. So this is pretty hard to understand, but a little bit confusing. But now here's the YAP. This is going to identify the DE. So if we follow this over, starts out not present, not being there. And where is it going to be there? It's going to be there in right here. These last three right here. Who are they? Is Canaan, which is D, Sin, which is D, and E, which is Mizraim. So it's the DE. The YAP identifies the DE. So that's why it's last on the list, So they had to have been the youngest sons of Ham, because they both have the yap. Okay, and there's this other one here. There's present, 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 deleted. It's deleted in who? It's deleted in NO. So I don't know if it's N or O or both, but it's deleted in NO according to this, which identifies Magog, or helps to identify Magog. And of course, everybody else has it. It's M175 present or deleted. And of course, this yap is M1, either minus or plus. Okay. So that's the way it works. When you root the tree in Arparsad has the most original lineage. Now, what they're trying to say this M168 is proof that we descended from Nimrod. But if you know the history, you know we didn't descend from Nimrod. So they're trying to say it changed in Nimrod, or the sea, and somehow didn't change in D or E or A or B. So they're saying it changed in Nimrod, and then all the rest of us descended from Nimrod. Right here. But that's obviously not the case, because Nimrod is the son of Cush. So either he retained it and Cush did not, and they did not, or else it switched back to its original thing, which is a possibility. If there was a gene correction or something, it switched back to what it was originally, which I kind of think was possible, or maybe more likely that it switched back instead of Nimrod retaining this T from here. That means Nimrod retained it. It means Cush lost it. Not only Cush, but Put, Canaan, and Mitzrayim also lost it too. So you'd have to have it lost in Cush, Put, Canaan, and Mitzrayim. Or it could just have reverted back, which I'm thinking more in the lines it reverted back to what it was over here. Reverted back to T. Now you got this one here. Oh, this identifies. This one here identifies Nimrod. So this change here, well, no. What am I looking at? TT. Yeah, this A. So this A identifies Nimrod. So we'll go look and see what identifies Nimrod. Because only Nimrod has, well, actually, that's retained too. What is this thing here? This is an M89 or what? Well, it's P143. to AAA. So that changed, either changed back, probably changed back too, maybe, or self-corrected somehow. But it's pretty much ironclad that the sea is Hamitic, and he's the son of Cush. And so these changes are what they are, regardless. It doesn't change the fact that Nimrod was the son of Cush and that he's Hamitic, because of all these other markers that are Hamitic. This one here, this one here, this one here. Yeah, so all these markers here would be Hamitic, which are, let's see, the change in the M89, the change in the L15, and the change in the M9. Well, the change in the M9 is because he's not Eurasian. Yeah, so this third one is because he's not Eurasian. Because the Eurasians have the G. All the Eurasians have the G. But Cush and Nimrod are not Eurasian, so they retain the C. It's kind of how it works. You got to look at each one very carefully and not get it all mixed up. But that's the way the alleles work. And then depending on where you root, what you consider as the original allele is what makes the tree. So when you know that Arpachshad is the most original allele, then you know that's where you have to root the tree. And everything else is downstream from Arpachshad. So Arpachshad has no alleles. All of his are original as can be. Every change downstream is a change from the original. So this one here identifies Dan. Let's see. And this one here identifies Asher. This one here identifies Aram? No, identifies J1. And then, of course, the M172 identifies J2. So that's how the alleles work. Any change from the original is an SNP. So this is an SNP for Judah. This is an SNP for J1, M267, and this is an SNP for Asher, because there's a change, and this is an SNP for Dan, because there's a change. So that's very, very interesting. It's interesting how this line goes straight down through here like this. Like this and like that to the M172, and like this for the M69. M69 is who? Elam. So there, M69 is Elam. The next change is the M201. Actually, I should highlight that somehow. Okay, next change is 201, which is Asher, and then there's Aram and Lut. And then we got the, what is it, M21. Okay. But the one for Japheth is M9. So I got M9. Change there, an allele for Japheth. And then we got, so we can find a change for each of these. Guess there's a change for each of these is all the way down, I guess. And when I got my DNA test done, it kind of shocked me how similar the information was to all my my cousins, my Y chromosome cousins. Okay, here's a change here. Okay, these are the descendants of Japheth. There's a change there. And why would it be these two here? This one is for this one only. Why would it be these two? Is this L and T? What is this? Oh, it's R1A. Okay, so it's it's all R. That's why. Because it's all under R. And R1A has its own, R1B has its own, and R2 Togarma has its own change in allele, which is called an S&P marker. That's what the S&P marker is. It's a single nucleotide polymorphism. So it's a mutation in that lineage. It identifies that lineage. Of course, it's possible to change back, but it's not possible to converge with another lineage because that would be too many changes. Anyways, that's the way it works. It took me a while to figure that out. I figured it out all on my own because I didn't have nobody teaching me this stuff. But that's how I rooted it in IJ. Because the root is an assumption. When they started off lettering A, B, C, D, and E, their assumption was that A was the most original basal lineage, which it's not. It just happens to have more mutations and be longer because of the more mutations, more generations, not because of its basal status, but because of its mutations and its number of generations. So that assumption that A was the most basal root, which is the out of Africa claim, is wrong because this is the most basal because Arpachshad is the oldest son of Shem, who's the oldest son of Noah. And all the changes are from here. So the M9 change of the Japhethites happens in K tubal. It can be K, elemental, P, Q, R, S, and T. So it's all G. But then when you get back to the Hamitics, it's C again, because this M9 change is only in the descendants of Japheth. So this is the Hamitic lineage retains the basal C, while the Japhethites, the descendants of Japheth, all have a change in the allele. So that's how you know the difference between Japheth and Ham, because of these allele markers. See, this one changes to C. In the Hamitic, this one changes to G all the way across, and this one changes to C all the way across. And this one changes back to C because this is an allele belonging to the sons of Japheth. So that's how you can identify the different lineages. Of course, the Hamitics do not have L15. They do not have M89 with these alleles. The allele is going to change in this position of L15, this position of M89. So you go across here, and you go to the Hamitic population, and it changes with Kush. So this allele here changes, this adenine changes to guanine, and this taurine changes to cytosine, or whatever it is. Okay, and this one retains the basal allele. So the Hamitics retain this basal allele because this change, this S&P marker, identifies the descendants of Japheth, which is all K elemental PQ R and T. So that's how it works, and it is fitting very well. And it's better than the out of Africa because, of course, the out of Africa makes the wrong assumption. Okay, let's try the bottom here, see what happens here. G, 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 A. Oh, so that identifies sin right here. So that allele identifies sin separate from Canaan, D1B. See how that works? This single nucleotide polymorphism, SNP, identifies the tribe of Sin as opposed to the general population of Canaan, because this is the one in Asia. So that's how that works. Let's follow this one. This is GGG, it's AAA, and it's GGG. So this is another identifier of M230. That's another identifier of, wait a minute, of, yeah, Japheth, Tubal, right? Yeah, K Tubal. So that's another identifier of Tubal. This allele change here from guanine to arginine is another identifier of Canaan, M230. This one here is this M20. I think it's Hamitic, maybe. No, the M20 identifies the lineage of Tiraz. M20. Okay. Now up here we have, okay, then we have this one here. Identifies Tubal. This one, no, this identifies Javan, I think. This one identifies Tiraz. This one identifies Madai. Okay, but anyways, it's kind of complicated. It's hard to follow, but if you follow through, you can find out which of the alleles belong. So this is the reason why this chart up here has, or is this like this? So you have Noah is the IJK, no SNPs. This is the original basal. So Shem is the oldest son of Noah. The basal, M89, C to T. Why is it C to T? If it's basal, why is it? It's not C to T, it's just T. If it's basal, it's just T. So that's got to be fixed if I hadn't fixed it already. M9 is G, ancestral, C. Oh. What? Because it changes in Japheth. So M, C to G, yeah, that's incorrect. C to G changes in Japheth. Changes from C to G. Because C, ancestral is C. Okay, the ancestral is, here is T, M89, because it's going to change, M89 is going to change in descendants of Ham, M89T. Oh, T from C? Anyways, it's all mixed up. I got to double check that. I think the ones I had is correct, but and okay, this changes C to T. Okay, Cush changes to C from T. Nimrod changes from C to T. But that's the only anomaly is this T right here. M168 T in Nimrod, and it's M168C, not only in Cush, but in Put, Canaan, and Mitzrayim as well. They're all M168C. Only Nimrod is M168T, so I'm thinking it reverted back to what it was, a correction, as it were. But this seed of Nimrod is a Hamitic lineage, of course, because it's A, B, C, D, and E. So the C is definitely Hamitic, but it either retained the T or it changed back to T when Nimrod was born, somehow. That's just the way it is, because since they're changing back and forth, they can't always be sure, but they gotta follow the whole lineage so that they can make a determination as to who belongs to who, which lineage. And of course, the more genetic information you have of the Y chromosome, the more accurate the determination can be. It used to be they only had like 18 places or something, and it was hard to tell who belonged to what lineage until they started doing better testing. But that's how it works when you root the tree in the IJK, the oldest son of Noah, which is shim. So he has the basal T, the basal G, or the ancestral C. Somehow I still got this mixed up for some reason. Because the M9 is supposed to be C, ancestral C. So the M9 is M9C in shim and Arpachad. It only changes to M9G in Japheth. So M9 changes from C to G in Japheth. And this one here, G to A. Let's see what this says. Oh, it changes from, yeah, see it's T. M89 is T. And it changes, or the M9. Let's follow the M9. The M9 is C. It changes to G in Eurasians. And so this is the original. Whatever changed from our side is a change from the original, with the exception of the one that identifies, the marker that identifies our side. Arpasad's lineage, which is, where is it? In 520. Anyway, which one of the changes? That one identifies that one. I guess they're all original. They're all original, I guess. So it has the original markers. I don't know what I was looking at before. Yeah, so Arpachad has all the original markers. Every change is downstream from Arpachad. Okay. Which this thing got to be corrected. I think I corrected it, but anyways. So that's how it works. When you root the tree in NOAA. IJK rooted model. Now these are the separate lineages of Aram and Lud. But I switched them around. I have, I think this one for Aram and this one for Lud. P14C for Lud, M213 for Aram. But not too sure about that either, because you got F1, F2, and F3, I think, are under M213. And it's just my guess that that's Aram and not Lud. But I could be wrong. See, I switched these around for Aram and Lud. F branch. 89T. 89T because it's the original IJK M89T, which japethites also have the original M89T. Okay. Okay, so, but I did have another system where I don't use ABC. I use 1, 2, and 3, and then ABC after 1, 2, and 3, which is probably the only way that you're going to be able to reassign the haplogroups correctly, with the alleles being basal and Arpachshad. So Arpachshad would be what? It'd be 1, 1, 1, 1. Be 1 from Noah, 1. No, 1A be 1A1. So Arpachshad be 1A1. So 1 for Noah, A for Shem, and 1 for Arpachshad because he's the oldest. So Arpachshad be 1A1. So I have to dig that up sometime. But if I start using that nomenclature, then nobody's going to understand what's going on. So for the time being, we have to stick with these as long as you can understand that the root is IJK, not A and B. Because A and B is the youngest lineage, or the Hamitic lineage, which is the youngest. Maybe there was something to do with the breakup of the continents and the ozone layer and everything that affected Nimrod. Or maybe it switched back, maybe it retained, maybe the other ones didn't, I don't know. But that's the way it is. This is what it is. But that would be the only anomaly there. Everything else is straightforward. The K-elemental-P remains exactly like it was. The only difference is that it's going backwards from the IJ. It goes from the IJ to the H to the G to the F to the E, or not to the E, but then it goes to the B, then to the A, then to the D and E. Because of the XDE. The XDE means that D and E have to be last. They're the end of the line. The XDE, the YAP, means that the D and the E have to be the end of the line. So they're the end of the line right here. Canaan, D, Mitzrayim, E. Because of this YAP change. The M1, YAP M1, I guess, is not present in everybody all the way down the line. It's only present in D and the D of Sin and E of Mitzrayim. That's where it's only positive or whatever. So that's how it works. And we got everybody accounted for, including Aram and Lud. Okay. Is this showing? It's not even showing it, is it? No. This is not even corrected here, Aram and Lud. But it is down here, though. Don't know why it's not corrected. Well, Grok can't keep track of everything. does a pretty good job, but you can't keep track of everything. So that's the way it works with the alleles. M64.1. Who's got this M64.1? I think we already checked. And it's sin. Okay. A. Okay, this one's T here. Oh, it's deleted here. And that one. And this one. So it's deleted and it's got a magog. Yeah. But there is a difference between N and O as well, of course. But I have NO as one lineage of magog, which is the largest population in the world. God said he would enlarge Japheth. And Japheth is the largest lineage in the world. Okay, that's about it for right now. Might as well get going. See what I can do. And that's about it. Hey, everybody, take care. Stay close to the truth. And you can depend on God's word being true. Just start walking in faith. And it'll all turn out to be true. That's our prediction. Our prediction is that it'll all be true. Everybody take care. God bless.